Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. I'm here today with Jeremiah. I had the pleasure of connecting with Jeremiah last year, so I'm looking forward to hearing what has changed since then. Without any further ado, Jeremiah, if you could introduce yourself and the company you represent, we'll kick it off with that.
Thanks, Matt, and good talking to you again. My company is called Energy Advantage Roofing and Solar. We operate in Colorado, Texas, Florida, and Arizona. We help turn storm damage into an energy advantage. People get hit with hail, wind, hurricane, storms, any sort of invasive damage on the property. We'll come in and we'll do the restoration piece, but then we really try and tie in energy saving components, solar, backup battery, HVAC, energy efficient windows, attic insulation, along with other protective items like gutters, paint, siding, and roofing components. I think that's probably our differentiator. And then what we're really trying to do is help people not file any more insurance claims. So we have a stone coated steel product that's coming out to market. That's your last roof you'll ever need. And we're trying to help people just reclaim and hold their energy independence from the power companies.
Strong claims that you've mentioned there. Absolutely. Love that. And I know you back them all up with what you've done so far at the company. But let's backtrack a little bit. What led you to start the company and join the solar revolution renewable energy industry?
Yeah. I've been in roofing itself since 2014, and I opened this company in 2017. And the big difference that I saw was roofing kind of just innately was like parasitic. Like we just sit and wait for hail and wait for damage.
Yeah.
And then when damage comes, right, we're first to the door and try and get people to file claims and then redo their roof. And obviously we don't lie about stuff like there's justified damage, but what I noticed is we put the same stuff back on the house. So, and a lot of these roofs were being done every 5 to 7 years. So what I saw was like we were making money, shingle manufacturers are making money, the insurance companies are making their money back for sure. All the while we're just kind of filling landfills and raising the cost of living for average consumers by increasing insurance premiums. So Energy Advantage was the concept was we take solar components. This was back in 2017. And because of an IT or investment tax credit overlap and redoing components of the roof, intertwining it with solar, we could get an overlap of tax credits and insurance proceeds. So the idea was instead of just putting back something that's going to get damaged again in 5 years, can we put something added on with really no addition or minimal addition out of the consumer's pocket that can make a difference in our carbon footprint? And that was the birth of Energy Advantage.
5 to 7 years it sounds crazy. I mean, for people that are not living in these areas that you covered, I mean, it's unheard of. I couldn't imagine how stressful it can be for anyone if you have to go through this like literally almost twice a decade. I mean, we're in this place probably close to 5 years now, 4 or 5 years, something like that. I don't even remember. And I couldn't imagine now having to redo the roof again and change so many. I mean, it's a big project every time you have to do it. So I can imagine how stressful that can be for homeowners in that area.
Right. And on the roofing side, like the out-of-pocket cost is called a deductible. And deductibles used to be maybe, $1,000. Seen some at $500, right? Maybe $2,000 on an expensive house. Well, now insurance deductibles are typically percentage of home value. And so we've seen, $8,000 to $12,000 to $20,000 deductible to redo the roof. Yeah. And so it almost like raises the question, like, why do I have insurance? Right. And this is just getting more and more prominent. And then we're noticing like insurance policies being changed around year 10 to year 13. So they're not paying depreciation anymore on some of these just because there's been so much damage that continuously gets called in for roofing. So really the birth of Energy Advantage was like, hey, we see a lot of these issues coming down the pipe, and how do we create something that's different for the consumer that lasts a lot longer, right? And we don't have to keep filling our landfills and keep exhausting all these resources just to get people square again.
Is it only like the solar edition that protects it, or is there like a completely different, or not completely, but a different type of roofing elements that you or material that you use to protect those homeowners from those? And by the way, those deductibles sound ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
almost. I mean, it's insane. I mean, makes me think that Jeremiah, you should join some legislative departments and make big moves for the entire industry, the entire area. Maybe run for some elections and be on board there to make decisions that will actually make sense for homeowners and people that should be protected, and not, I don't know who was that policy for, to be honest. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Right. And like you have to have homeowners insurance to buy a house, at least as of right now. And so you can't ever unhitch insurance or you shouldn't really unhitch insurance when you have property. So it's like having a partner that can just charge more, charge more, charge more, and then take more, take more. It is a zero sum gain, right? When you have this relationship with the insurance company, because you have to have this policy. And it seems like they're just covering less and less and charging more and more. So ideally, if we offered a product that said, what if you didn't have to insure your roof anymore against hail? What if as a company came in and replaced the panels, our steel panels, right, at $80 a panel, and you tell me which ones you want to replace? Because the chances of hail going through steel, right? This is 26 gauge thick steel, very unlikely. Like it's not, that probably won't really happen. So really most of the stuff we were seeing is just going to be cosmetic. Then we're seeing insurance companies possibly not cover cosmetic anyways. So what I want to do is be able to give a product to a consumer that they don't need insurance or coverage against hailstorms and fires and stuff like that. Obviously totally different, but also I think metal roofs hold up better against forest fires, and they hold up better against high wind rating than asphalt shingles. So we want to just be able to create a product that lowers insurance premiums, eliminates some of the liability, right, off the insurance company, and gives the consumer more control over some of their fixed expense costs.
I'll be really curious to hear, what's the typical response from a homeowner? Are they still skeptical about this? Are they still having many questions? Or, I mean, it sounds no brainer almost to me. It makes sense, but I'll be curious to hear some stories from your side.
Well, a lot of homeowners are concerned about the price point, right? And the first thing that comes to mind is like, I don't think I can justify it. Like there's a price point differentiation. Now, we've done a pretty good job as far as now being able to bring all of our own product in from some of our manufacturers overseas, where we can cut that price down dramatically. And so my whole goal is like, whatever an insurance company was going to pay you for shingles, instead of being like 100% more, what if it was maybe 10% more or 15% more? You're already at this out-of-pocket expense of $8,000 or $10,000 or whatever the percentage of the home value is. Maybe for a couple thousand more, we get you a roof that you'll never have to do this again, right? And I think as contractors, if we thought more about sustainability and the products that we put on people's homes lasting a lifetime, right, our community would do better. Our environment would do better. And then we get that notion out of our head that in order for us to monetize or make money, somebody else has to be hurt. Like it has to hurt somebody in a negative way, right, in order for us to make money. I don't think we have to think like that anymore.
I like that. I mean, it makes sense. There are always other opportunities that you can introduce and make a good living off from, instead of like hoping for acts of God to destroy someone's belongings.
Right.
Well, if you look back, you started a company in 2017. You said so. It's been a few years and some time there. What were the challenges that you can remember as you were growing the company, from the first day you started until now?
Well, I think obviously like some of the greatest challenges we face as an entrepreneur is probably the responsibility of decision making. And in my career, right, I've recruited, hired, and trained over 1,000 sales reps.
Whoa, 1,000?
Yeah. Ever since I was probably started when I was 22 at College Pro
Wow.
Painters as a general manager. Yep. Yeah. We used to recruit high school, or not high school, but college students to run painting franchises.
Mm.
Yep. So I would recruit them and train them and develop them. And then obviously sales reps throughout the many organizations, and then my companies. So in the decision-making process, right, being able to live with the responsibility of the decisions. Sometimes it's letting people go when they're not ready to be let go or they don't want to be let go. Sometimes it's getting funding or choosing not to get funding, right? Sometimes it's bringing on a partner, right? Or choosing to go solo. And a lot of times if one of our installers or one of our employees screwed something up on a job, I used to get overwhelmed about how much this is going to cost and how many hits like this I can take, right? And I used to fear a lot about being able to make money this month to cover my overhead and cover whatever expenses I have, payrolls, right? Payroll's always the biggest burden. But then as I realized our core values started to morph and become an essence of our leadership team and then eventually all of our employees. And the decision making got easier. It got easier because now the decision, obviously, if we screw something up and it's our responsibility, we're accountable for it because accountability is one of our core values, right? If our goal is to, let's say lead door knocking and it's July and we have to get 60 door knock leads in one market this week and it's 103 out, we are out door knocking because one of our core values is resilience, right? It's not easy. That's not one of our core values. So the decision making, I think, was probably one of the biggest hurdles, was getting over the fact of not being afraid of the responsibility behind the decision that came after, but then developing the core values, sorting it through, throtting it against the board, figuring out, make sure we have the right ones. And then now that we have the right ones and we live the right ones, now all decision making actually is pretty easy. Because success or failure, right? Cash flowing or non-cash flowing, as long as we don't compromise our value set and integrity of who we are, we'll be fine. Money will be a byproduct of the value that we add to our community.
I love it. And I like the fact that you turn your core values into an acronym. We had, just for everyone listening, gratitude, resilience, accountability, connection, empowerment, and service. Grace. Yes. How was it like I could imagine as I was reading about it, like a brainstorming session with your team, with your leadership team, or how did you guys come about that acronym?
Yeah. So what we did was all of our leadership, we knew that the leadership team and the C-suite that we liked and we encouraged, and we've had previous relationships, long-term relationships, shorter-term relationships, but we really trusted each other. And so we did some brainstorming sessions on words that we thought described ourselves.
Mm.
And then what I did was just kind of behind the scenes, started putting a lot of this stuff together on where do we overlap on all the executive team on words that describe ourselves. And so that way, Grace was a collaboration of the leadership team and the people who are typically making these decisions. So then that way, as they're faced with thousands of decisions that they have to make in any given day or week, right? They're able to go back to the value set that is an intrinsic part of who they are and remember that when they make these decisions. Right?
I like it. So
fire based off our values.
I like it. So essentially, whatever decision, I was thinking about it actually this morning. What are the core values that we always stick to, that subconsciously, not even having something set in stone, but there's always something that pushes you towards one decision or another, right? So that's something that once you set in stone, actually, that's why I feel like all companies should have those core values where once you set them in stone, that your decisions, like you said, become easier because you make your decision based on your values. If it doesn't make sense, if something is according to your values, it makes it sense just to say yes to that opportunity or whatever it is. And on the other hand, if you have a potential partner, vendor, or if you have you're facing a big decision and it's absolutely not according to your core values and your leadership team values, then the decision should be essentially a no, because it's not aligned with us and our company and what we've been building for the last almost decade at this point. So
Right.
yeah, that's a big part of it right there. Now, if you could, one thing that I was really curious, and you mentioned you mentioned the word partnerships, and I think this is so relevant to everyone who's looking into entrepreneurship or is doing some sort of businesses so far. Like, how was your experience with that? Essentially, to if you could walk me through, I'm really personally interested in that as well. Like, how did you choose your partner? What were you looking or hoping from that partnership, and how did it work out? Obviously.
Yeah, yeah. So my partner, Takuya and I have known each other for 23 years,
Mm,
right? We grew up together in a company called College Pro Painters. And in this company, right, just give you a quick snapshot. College Pro Painters been around since 1972. We used to recruit, hire, and train 10,000 college students nationwide to
big
go paint
numbers.
$50 million worth of homes in 14 weeks, right? And then shut the whole thing down and do it all over again every year.
Wow.
It was nuts. So we both kind of got forged, right, in this fire of grit and creativity and tenacity and all these things. And we both got forged in this fire of door knocking, right, at age 19 years old, selling paint jobs, running our own business, forged in this fire of making tough decisions and being responsible for those decisions at a young age. So we had this trusted history together. Now, both of us, how our stories came together is we both kind of had similar falling outs in businesses or business partners, and he had just had a falling out in a solar roofing company, and he knew that's what I was doing, and I knew his skill set is really in growing company, and I said, hey man, come see what we got, see what we're doing, right? And see if it's something that you think we can grow together. And then came on in end of 21. I think we finished out around 4 million or 3.9 million. And then in 22 shot up over 9 million just with
Nice.
it. Yeah. 23 was like 14 and then 24 is 12. So ever since he came aboard, right, obviously the business has just grown exponentially. And so I think as like a founding CEO, my skill set, my ability probably reached its cap,
Mm,
And so bringing on a partner now is a lot. It's better for my employees. It's better for other people in the company because there's somebody else who brings in more structure and who can be a better CEO and a better business owner than I can. And then as the founder, I can go on and do either acquisitions or specialty projects, or I still lead canvassers, right? And teaching people door knocking. I still lead our call center and teaching people cold calling. So now I've kind of worked more into a master trainer.
love it. One thing, true leadership, first of all. So thanks so much for sharing. I reminded me, you said the word trust. It's probably the key here in any partnership, and reminded me of that story of, I think, could be Berkshire Hathaway's one of the founders from them, that were he was hiring for an executive role or almost like a partnership role. In that case, he'd schedule a meeting at a local restaurant, and he would tell the waiter before the other person arrived, the candidate arrived, to mess up their order as much as possible and create some sort of mess or chaos at the table to see how that person reacts during chaos or some tougher. I want to say tough, it's not like a tough situation, but like during
Yeah.
like a chaotic situation where something goes not according to the plan. So and that's how he decided, all right, you're a good person because I see how you treat other people in situations like this, how you react, or how you stay calm, imperturbable, which is my favorite word, in the situations like that. You are going to be a good fit for our CEO. Obviously, there is some background check that he did. We're talking about
Yeah.
9-figure to 10-figure and beyond businesses, but that's a true story. And kind of
That's
like, because I was thinking, like, when you know your partner for many years, a lot of times you're put in a situation where you don't know that person very well, or you don't know them at all, and you have to figure out how to trust them. So I think it's a cool story, that cool way to test
Yeah.
them.
Well, and for all business owners, we can get slapped in the face with the worst information that affects us financially, physically, emotionally,
Mentally.
whatever. And then a half hour later we land this $100,000 contract, or we land a big deal, right? So
Totally.
in the world of entrepreneurship, you have to be stable. You have to
Mm.
be stable enough to take both of those, right, as they come on. And you have to process each one separately, damage control, isolate, but silver lining and some of the problem, right? And then on the upside too, like what's our responsibility now to fulfill, and who gets credit, and how do we start dishing off and maneuvering? But we don't really have time to let our emotions get the best of us and treat somebody disrespectful, right? Or not embrace for the opportunity that's coming.
Yeah, that's a big one, and it sounds so obvious, but I can count many examples that come to mind where the leadership didn't follow what you just covered and essentially destroyed company culture. And if you know that it's so important, because if you don't take care of your people, then no one will be taking care of your company and the company that they're being part of. I even had some personal stories to that, but that's not for the recording for sure. And question I had for you: you
Yeah.
mainly serve residential homeowners, or are there also some is there a commercial aspect in it as well, like businesses as well?
So yeah, dominantly residential.
Okay,
I would say 90 to, yeah, 90% of our revenue is residential.
got it.
Uh,
On that, could you walk us through your typical or even maybe ideal customer journey? When someone, how do homeowners find out about you, or how do you find out about them? I know you love teaching about canvassing and cold calling. By the way, I could door knock all day. I was When I moved to the United States, I was door knocking at 115 to 124 degrees Fahrenheit every single day after the work. I would do the installations in the morning, and in the afternoon I would door knock. And Saturday we did the power Saturday for like 8-9 hours, just straight walking, because we
yeah,
didn't do any installs. And then cold calling was something I just can't. Like the moment I see the phone, I don't like the environment. I can go and knock doors at tough weather condition, but never, like, I couldn't figure out the cold
never
calling aspect.
never dialing.
I
No,
did that.
why not? Why not, you think?
It's so crazy. When I became joined the leadership team, and I was managing, like, at one point 51 projects, multiple offices,
Wow.
and I was getting, like, I was on the phone for like 6 hours, 7 hours a day. Like when I look at my screen time on an iPhone, and I had like 4 to 6 thousand messages, like internally between team, that were like directly influenced by what I'm gonna say or what I'm going to receive. So it was important information.
Right.
And I don't know, like I grew to the point where, like, right now I love being on calls like this, but the moment I have to, like, pick up a phone and call someone, like, I freeze. Like, I don't know. It's great.
Bring back all
I
the
dig into
anxiety.
that. Yeah, I've done cold calling for a bit of. It still gives me that feeling that if I can avoid it, I will avoid it at any cost, at all costs. So I'm curious to see some of your training and coaching, how you approach tough students like myself, because I know
Yeah.
it's powerful, especially in America. It's such a powerful channel if you do it right. I've seen all those very minor programs and all the other guys. I'm curious to hear how you approach training for that. But yeah, it's something that I've never figured out, like, why. It just gives me that panic attack when I have to, like, do the cold calling serious.
Yeah, yeah. I think getting through that hurdle, and that whatever that anxiety piece is, that fear piece is often the first step. Word tracks can help, right? Knowing exactly what to say, knowing
Mm-hmm.
exactly how to say it, handle a rebuttal, etc. But what I found is kind of getting through the fear piece is understanding the why we do what we do, right? So another business we opened up, now it's a year and a half and running, is a debt relief program. So
Mm-hmm.
consumers who are in credit card debt, loan debt, et cetera. It's not consolidation. It's not a settlement. Not bankruptcy or anything like that. But it's a debt relief program. It's a systemized program to help people get through some of this really tough time. And so when I train on a new class, for example, talking about like the debt relief, I really would ask them why you chose this program, why you're working for this company, and what is it about what we have to offer that you feel like would really benefit the person in their life. So I think really grounding in that and then tying that to their core values. Some of their core values, a lot of people's core, our core values is gratitude, resilience, accountability, right? So they have their own individual core values. And oftentimes a lot of this is around helping people and helping others. And so I think sometimes when we ground in our why of what we do, that can supersede that hesitation from fear, right? And help us get through a lot of that. Like somebody's got to hear it because this is really important, right? When we knock doors for roofing, there will be 85 roofing contractors in a 6-block area because it's not like we have a ton of hail, right? So we got to show up, and you have you against 85 other people. The consumer's already pretty upset because they had 85 knocks here in the last 5 hours. They got all these makeshift signs and whatever, right? So you can only imagine, like you're now walking into a situation that the other person's upset with you and they don't want to see you and they don't want to hear what you have to say. So I'm like, so I talk to my team, like, so why are you here? Why are we doing what we do? And we bring out these samples of this steel that we sell. Right. And hey, just before you go get all these other bids or look at these other roofers or put all the same stuff back on your house, how about we stop filling the landfills and we do something to change this? Because you just got your roof done 5 years ago. Right. And what happens is sometimes, right? Actually, often people will slow down the receiver of that message and they go, actually, I'm glad you stopped by because all 85 other people didn't show me that. Right. But then for the youth, and it's all predominantly youth that I teach, right? High school students and college students, they kind of rethink through fear. And they're like, wow, that's actually a really good point. I shouldn't really be afraid, right? If my why I'm doing something connects with a core value that I see in myself. And so we teach that, whether it's on the phones or it's on the doors or it's in personal selling. Do you really believe in what you have to offer is of value? And I think if people internalized even that message, not necessarily in sales, right? But maybe in relationships, maybe in whatever it is, you have value, and that'll often supersede the fear.
I like that. That's a big one. Belief, absolutely key here. Yeah, it's you're right. I mean, having obviously the right approach to it, and I think that comes from leadership and training. And I can already tell that people that the youth that you train, they should be set for life, because once you master prospecting like that in a tough environment, whether it's calling or walking door to door, you should be able to handle anything in life, and definitely, selling yourself through any problems you might encounter later on in your life. And it's a good skill set to have and develop, especially early on in your career. So yeah, good job. Right. Congrats on launching that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I remember my first day actually door knocking, and the training was pretty much, I would say, the first 3 doors.
Was it? Yeah.
And that's it. And then I was like, yep, you go and do this. And they almost kind of like back then ignored me until I started bringing in deals. And they're like, yeah, whoa. How did you figure it out? Like, is it the pitch that I told you? And it was obviously not. You keep tweaking and finding out what's working and find your own way of saying it. Especially for me, like English was still my third language, so the barrier was there. I didn't have that feeling for the language. I couldn't speak fast enough as other guys, but there was something about it, about the way I said, I guess maybe in my accent, or the fact that obviously I was also probably one of the, if not the only one, who was installing in that area in the morning. So people saw me, and it was there's this familiarity factor as well, when they kind of like saw me on the roof in the morning, and then like I'm at your door, talking to you. So that was a big aspect for as well. But hey, my wallet liked it.
Yeah.
It paid off, because you get paid twice, and obviously, like you said.
Let me ask you, what do you think it was of like that was a core value in you that connected with why you did what you did and how you got through that and got results with minimal sounds like minimal to no training.
Good question. Let me find it out. So core value back then.
Yeah, and it maybe could be a core value you still even see today in yourself.
Yeah, it's first thing that comes to mind is that the belief, you mentioned the belief. So it's very hard for me to believe in something. There's a lot of people that pitched different products and they talk about it like crazy. Sure you've seen those people a lot. Like people get super excited, and I'm extremely careful with people that get overly excited about something. It's never like I can get really easily excited about something. So it took me a while to like really understand. So in between those time when I was installing or door knocking, I would learn about the technology. I really wanted to understand photovoltaics. I really wanted to understand the technology. I really wanted to understand what's behind it to believe in it. And once I did, which I guess the belief could be seen as a core value here. Once I did, and I saw this thing, we finished installation, it's working. I monitor it. I was monitoring the process from A to Z. I know that what I'm selling is not any BS. It's not something that will hurt the person. It's actually adding a ton of value. And I could see their bills, 2-3 months after that. So there was this element to it, and those people, first customers, are still texting me sometimes when something goes off with their inverter or whatever, things happen. But yeah, that was something that gave me that confidence that hey, I'm actually doing something that adds value to their life and saves them money or whatever that part is. But the belief, like it took me, I had to work on that belief. Like it wasn't something that. Because I saw other guys, like you tell them the story, like, hey, this was European product, so it's like Rolex for solar, this and this and that, and they were like, oh my god, I'm so excited, and they were going and exactly saying the same thing someone told them to say. For me, I couldn't just rephrase what they told me to do. I had to like understand it to the deepest level in order for me to like really have the conviction in my voice and in overall what I was doing. So I don't know if that.
Those people that were excited about everything and anything are excited about money. Money comes first, right? And they're excited because everybody tells them they can make a lot of money. But really, money should be a byproduct of the value that you add to the community. Right? Otherwise, like, you're a drug dealer. You're what? I don't know. You bring in a ton of money, you add zero value, right? So, and I think it was funny. I was at lunch with a friend in the solar industry, and the solar industry's taken a really big hit. And we just kind of asked me, like, what do you think was like one of the contributors to obviously the solar industry taking such a big hit? And I'm like, these overpaid commissions. Like, I don't understand how salespeople would get paid these kind of commissions for a 1 hour, 2 hour interaction with a customer. And then if something goes wrong,
they're not reliable.
They're not accountable for it. I don't see them giving back their commission check or going to buy a new inverter or paying for this customer's energy bill until it's fixed. They have zero. And I'm like, doesn't that seem like off a bit, off tilt? But this industry became like everybody wanted money, and they hyped up what good it could do, but it was really because they wanted more money, and they don't want to admit it, and they'll hide behind things saying that they help people with their energy bills. But it's like, when I walk into a house, if somebody wants a ton of solar and I look at their windows and their windows are like single pane 100-year-old windows, I'm like, no. I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you half that size of solar and we're going to do a couple new windows, right? Upstairs or whatever, or attic insulation, or maybe a new furnace or HVAC, right? Because that's really what the consumer should have. And maybe my paycheck isn't as big, but that serves a better why than getting paid.
100%, yes. And also understanding the process. Like I feel like most of the guys don't really spend enough time on understanding the entire process. The process itself in the United States could be vastly simplified. I mean, we can all agree that the whole process from getting permits to permission to operate. Speaking of solar, obviously the same applies. I can imagine for a lot of other energy efficient things, especially for roofing, that the process could be simplified. There's way too much bureaucracy involved in it, but understanding the process, it is what it is, helped as well to lower almost like trying to not, overhype the customer as well, like over promise, under deliver type of thing, which happened in that industry and happened a lot. That contributed to now to the conversation you had with your friend, contributed to it as well, to the situation, because it compounds, and it's obviously a low trust industry, became a low trust industry where it shouldn't be, and obviously now everyone is hurting, and it's almost like that be fearful when others are greedy saying, and greedy when others are fearful type of thing. It's there's truth to it for sure. These history likes to be a good history can be a good teacher in many cases. That is one of those cases. But I know we have to move on here. Two questions that I have for you. First question is you sitting across the table from Jeremiah from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. What advice would you tell him?
So that's a good question. Jeremiah 10 years ago, I'm 34. I would tell him everything's going to be okay. Everything works out. Everything's going to be okay. Everything works out. And by the way, I pushed my meeting back to 3:15 or whatever, so we have more time. Go on. But yeah, so I would tell Jeremiah 10 years ago, everything's going to be okay. And we don't have to live in the past of the decisions that we made or we didn't make, or how we didn't show up and what we didn't do and the regret. And we don't have to live in the fear of the future and the anxiety of the future, and that how we may not show up, or we may make mistakes, or we may get hurt. But try to be centered on what I'm doing right now, who I'm with right now, and making right now the most impactful right thing I can do. Stay focused on now and try and work with my mind to not be in two separate places.
Sounds simple, but it's not if you think about it. I mean, I struggle with it all the time. Like we sacrifice present moment, if you think about it, where you should be able to just focus on this one and do this to your best ability, but we sacrifice it because we think ahead of time, or we carrying the load from the past. And that's so true, that if you stay present, you will do your job much better, which affects the future. And who cares about the past? Because you can't repeat it, you can't do anything with it. It's already done. So don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. There's no point. Obviously, reflect on it. It's great. Reflection is powerful. However, you should be doing everything you can to maximize the benefits of now, because you won't get it ever again. Good lesson right there.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And there's lessons to be learned in the life that we lived, but I can make the choice today, right? And to act in a certain way that I want to act. If I want to be more compassionate to a stranger, or more giving, or more engaged, right? I can make that choice.
Absolutely. Love it. And lastly, the North Star. What's the future? What do you predict in the future and near future, and then maybe next decade? What's happening?
In massive job displacement with AI integration, humanoids, and automation. I think in this massive displacement, I think those of us who are able to provide for our community are going to have a greater need and responsibility to take care of more people. And so I think we'll still see things like, maybe standardized paychecks and living and money for the general public that get displaced, probably higher taxation on corporations or companies that are utilizing majority of natural resources to monetize or get further ahead, right? Or fuel the AI, or fuel humanoids, or fuel a lot of the stuff. So we should probably tax and for people who make the greater profits based off of this automation, so we can take care of our community. Yeah, I fear the division is only going to be greater and wider. And sorry, we got these dogs running around here, just dog party. But I think in our lifetime, and over the next 10 years, it's going to be faster and wider and greater than we've ever seen before in history. And so when things move so fast, just like we saw in cryptocurrency, right? There was billionaires overnight that were made. I hope when these billionaires overnight that become made also innately take on a responsibility to take care of community. Because if we don't, then the disparity and that gap difference is going to be tragic, right? It's going to be tragic. And it's like we have an opportunity right now because of the catalyst to keep in mind the general welfare of everyone and not create this separation. I talk about that overpaying in commissions in solar because it's a real thing. When we saw people have an opportunity to make money, they almost didn't look twice to overcharge a customer to line their own pocket, adding zero value down the road should something go wrong. Business owners and people who take responsibility for product breaking down and whatever over the duration of the warranty, totally different, right? We need to preserve that margin. But then I fear that some of this has already popped out in what humans do. And I hope we can correct it as it just gets greater.
And personally, I would love to see that happening in America, that the community element of it coming from a place where community was a big aspect and still is, not to the degree as I could remember, but sticking together, helping each other out, having that community aspect is absolutely the healthiest, in my opinion, the healthiest environment for all of us to develop for the youth, for the younger generations, the youngest generations, and for the senior generations as well. So it's good for us all, and I hope we are going to see that change happening.
Yeah. Where did you grow up again?
Poland.
In Poland. Okay. Yeah. And Poland's like socialized healthcare, schooling, public school, everything.
Almost not like in Germany, I would say. They're a lot more advanced with that, but it's definitely different than it's here. And it's like the community aspect as well. Like we're living, the community was always there. Like you had a community that was sticking together and helping each other out. The families were way closer together. The friendships were built that last lifetime. It was definitely a bit different focus. It wasn't like everyone would be chasing their own kind of like direction, their own dreams, their own goals. It was more focused on, like you said, the community aspect of it. And that obviously led to I would say, a better environment, healthier environment to grow up in, and based on my opinion. But obviously with the advancements, the innovations just picking up, it almost like it compounds the amount of the speed at which we are introducing all those developments and innovations, and with innovations come a lot of unethical practices. I'm already hearing every single day from some AI scam that takes advantage of people that absolutely have no idea what this is all about. The older generations, and it's like, why are we doing that? There should be we're advancing so fast, and there should be something that regulates it at some degree. I mean, where it's definitely not going the right direction, but obviously nothing against all those innovations. We need them, and I think hopefully in long term they are going to benefit us all. And with the right leadership, we could probably achieve that. With that, it was a pleasure to connect again and have this chat with you, Jeremiah. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Absolutely.